Hi, I'm Charles Curcio from the Stanley News and Press, and I'm here with North Stanley head coach for the women's basketball team, Greg Speight. And Coach, thank you for joining us for this time. First off, congratulations on the tremendous success you guys have had this season. Can you put a finger on anything that has kind of led to that success?
Well, we've got a number of good players. That's always important, but it's also a bunch of good student athletes who work very hard together.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of eye on that team. It's just very few problems. It's a good bunch to be around. I look forward to practicing and look forward to traveling with them.
It seems like that every night there are obviously people that lead in scoring and things like that, but every night it seems like somebody. Sometimes it's Greg Speight who steps up. Sometimes Asia steps up. It just always seems like that, along with your top two, as far as point production goes, there's always a third kind of in the mix there somewhere.
Well, we've got, really 7 or 8 of them are really good shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of whoever gets open and gets the opportunities. Holly Chandler usually gets hers because she handles the ball so much.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay, she's sort of everything kind of goes around her, and we get her the ball inside as much as we can, sometimes not as much as we should. And so she usually gets hers, and then like you say, you don't know who the third or fourth person is going to be. Asia has done a great job. Asia Capel rebounded, and she gets a lot on offensive rebounds, and she's good at finishing. She runs the floor well. Brittany can take it to the basket really well. She shoots it well at times. And then Jenny and Gentry and Elizabeth, they're such good three-point shooters that they're going to have nights where they light it up. So it's like I say, we can be hard to defend. It
just seems like, sometimes you try to, it's just like an almost trial and error. Just if this one's hitting, if this one's hitting, it must be a great luxury to have that many weapons on a team.
Well, and especially the first 16, 17 games, we're kind of in the last 7 or 8 games,
mm-hmm.
even though we've been able to win, we haven't scored near as many points. And I think a lot of it's the second and third time we're seeing teams and they're making adjustments to what we do, but we haven't shot the ball as well. Hopefully that'll come back.
Let's talk a little bit first about your career overall. You coached at South Stanley, and obviously you're more than just a basketball coach. You've coached softball and won a state championship at South Stanley. Talk about your experiences down there, and you had great success with basketball as well there too.
Mm-hmm. And I liked it, South Stanley. Of course, I live up here, and I like being here. I know the people here in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I like the people down there. I just didn't like driving 20 miles
mm-hmm.
one way
sure.
every day. Plus, my daughter's here. I wanted to be where she was if
mm-hmm.
I could. But we had a good run of athletes at South Stanley in basketball and softball. But that's a softball area.
Yeah.
We got fortunate and had a really good run of basketball talent and was able to win a couple sectionals and a few conference championships. But softball is where we had most of our success down there.
I don't know if you remember this, but the one year that you actually took the girls to the regionals at Newton Conover High School was against my alma mater, and I actually covered that game, and I was still in college. And that's the first time that we actually spoke, and that was probably, oh my Lord, that's probably 94 or 95?
We actually, we won the sectionals twice at
mm-hmm.
South Stanley, and both times we won the sectionals, when we got to the regionals, Hazel put us out.
Mm-hmm.
They put us out in '92. That's when they had won the state championship.
Yeah.
5 years in a row,
mm-hmm.
and we actually took them to overtime, and we were 4 points ahead in overtime. And
that's
we
right.
Turned the ball over.
I'd forgotten that. You're absolutely right.
That was 92.
Yeah.
We turned the ball over a couple times and ended up getting edged out. And then the second time they beat us in 90. Well, that was 93, and then they came back and beat us in 96.
Mm-hmm.
They come back.
It was. They
beat us both times.
But you've had a lot. Just suffice to say, you've had success not just here but also there. But in particular, 20 more wins or more for 10 straight seasons. How does that happen?
That's just. It's mostly talent on the part of the girls. We've had a great run of talent, and of course, I've had super help. Coach Ingram, Jack Ingram from Pfeiffer. He's coached the men's and the women's teams at Pfeiffer, and he had given it up because he had 3 children at that time. All his children were at home. And 10 years ago, I just asked him, "Would you be interested?" I said, "I'll do all the driving the bus and washing the uniforms and getting everything ready. I just want somebody that wants to help out with basketball." And of course, he's done a lot more than basketball. He's helped us build a lot of things, and he's made North Stanley a better place. But getting him on board is such a great asset because you don't feel every day. You don't feel like up to where you want to be, and there's a lot of days I'll drag into practice, and he comes in and inspires them. So it's really been a labor of love.
It just seems like between the two of you, there's such a great melding together of the motivation that a coach needs, the X's and O's, just that basketball knowledge combined with the way that you coach the girls.
Well, I think we do complement each other well, and neither one of us have any aspirations of doing. We just like what we're doing. We're not. This is not a stepping stone job. So we're just having fun, and we're natured relatively similar, but so it works out great.
I've always been impressed that you guys really do approach during the game in a very low key manner. It's not you're very you're straightforward with the girls. You tell them what's going on out there. But there's not a whole lot of there are some coaches that really do rely on the and I know, for lack of a better word, histrionics of doing all this kind of stuff. And I don't think I've ever seen you guys have to do things like that.
Well, we hope that we prepare them in practice for what we think is going to happen, and I feel like once the game starts, it's in the players' hands, and I want them to know that they got to do it. There's like 10 years I haven't scored yet.
Yeah.
So that's old, it's corny, but
it's true though.
It's true. It's once the game starts, it's in their hands, and
I have a list of a few names that I just want to mention and play a little word association. I'll say the name and you tell me just in a few words what you think, what they remind you of, or what comes to mind when you hear their name.
Okay.
Cameron Clark.
Just energy. You couldn't open a gym without her being there.
Brooke Whitley.
Same way. Always, they would call you and want you to open a gym.
Holly Chandler.
She's just driven. Really, really driven. Despises to lose. She'll play through about any injury if it's possible.
Tiana Bryant.
Deceptively strong, really good rebounder. People underestimated her quickness and rebounding ability.
Jack Ingram.
He loves basketball, coaching basketball, and he knows how to bring the best out of people, get the best out of people.
Lindsey Burleson.
Hardworking, really smart, thinks things through.
One last one, and I had forgotten for this phrase but I was looking back through some of our old newspapers, and I saw the phrase, and you'll have to explain this one to me because I remember it, but it comes from the South Stanley days. It's chicken taters kiwi. Do you remember that?
That was them softball girls. that was theirs. I don't know what. I remember.
I remember hearing it at the games and never did really get an explanation.
Something from some of their summer league stuff, but that was some good times too.
April Benson.
deceptively fast, and she could do a lot of things well. You know, she could handle the basketball. You know, she always played post for us, but you know, she went coast to coast. You know, she'd get the rebound and then make a layup at the other end and run by 4 people doing it at times.
Most of the names that I mentioned here obviously are either in the 1,000-point club or very close to it, or some of the more standouts. Who are some of the players that did the work that wouldn't, you know, necessarily get as much respect over the years, over these 10 years? Who would you say some of those players are that really
haven't gotten the credit?
That haven't gotten the credit that really deserve, you know, being in the trenches there.
Jenna Brooks, she was just so smart. Katie Huff, she done a lot of things well. Just she could run the point guard, but she was a great rebounder. Shira Benson and Heather Carter, they could defend like nobody we ever had. I mean, they were just phenomenal defenders and super hard workers. Yeah.
Obviously, Coach, we're taping this on this Thursday afternoon, and you have the conference finals tomorrow night. What is your ultimate goal? What is this team's ultimate goal?
When we started out, you know, because of what we've done the last 10 years, we wanted to win the conference. We did that. We would love to win the conference tournament. That's always a tough double when the league's competitive to get both of them. We've had years where we've got one or the other. There's been a year or two where we've got both of them. But it's tough. And then, once you get out of your conference, a lot of your success depends on how good everybody else is. And some years we've been really good, but Salisbury or somebody else was super good. And then some years we haven't been as well, have not been as good as other years, but the tournament, the 2A wasn't that deep, and we ended up getting pretty deep ourselves. So, after tomorrow night, if we get a win tomorrow night, then next week, you just go play it and see what happens. Especially with this pod system, you're not gonna have any idea who you play, and you can't go scout, you can't anticipate. So, we've just had, and speaking basically for Jack and I, we've just had a boatload of not only good basketball players but good students. You can look at a lot of the girls that played for us, and they're, we've got a couple studying medicine, PAs. We've got, they've all, not all of them, but a great number of them were students who played basketball, and basketball was a fun part of their life, but it wasn't, it wasn't the highlight, and it means a lot when they come back and say how much they enjoyed it, because they've had a lot of other things go right for them too. But they come back, and they always come back and see us, Jack and I, and that always makes me feel. Heather came up yesterday, and Heather and I were talking yesterday. And usually at Christmas, lots of them will come to our games somewhere. April, Shira, Cameron's in Florida. She came by. Of course, Brooke helps us.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot, and she's been a real asset to us this year. She's still in great shape. And
she can still get out there and play.
Oh, she's still the best.
Yeah.
She's still the best player on the floor when she practices with us, by far.
Yeah.
But it's just been a lot of fun.
Coach, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.